here we have a 1964 Galaxy 500, supposedly rocking a 352 Windsor V8. This car was last run somewhere around 1993. Story on it is, it was my grandfather's old car, and they used it last for my aunt's graduation back around that time, her grade 12 graduation. And then after that, it sat inside a barn until we picked it up just a couple days ago. So we're gonna go front to back on this car and take a peek, just kind of see. But the main mission today is, will this car start again after sitting for so long in a barn? What is that, 33, 32 years? Something like that. So yeah, let's dive right in. Coming back, it actually got cleaned up a little bit in the rain. But as you can see, the paint actually isn't that bad. There's it kind of wiped down. Turned out pretty nice, but you got lots of little rust holes all kind of hanging out. Last plated 1993, the last time it was on the road there. We're gonna take it vice grip garage style, and we'll check just what's going on inside this trunk first. It's a really big trunk on this. Basically what we're checking for is, you know, alternators, power steering pumps, things that, you know, won't make this engine run, because we actually didn't even look at what's inside. So let's take a peek at what we're dealing with on the inside here. Alright, so things that we got going on in here. What do we got here? Rotors. We got a couple rotors. Actually, more than a couple rotors. Quite a lot of rotors, tell you the honest truth. So, this is big. Looks like it's actually an alternator. Might even be a generator. It's old enough that it could be a generator on this 64 Galaxy. But that's a little unnerving. Makes you almost wonder if there's even belts hooked onto that, but that's okay. Whole bunch of hubcaps. Looks like we got an old voltage regulator. See if I can get that. Battery, field, and ground. Yeah, voltage regulator. Get looking on the inside. We got lots of mousage. Some expert wire in there. A couple bulbs. Oop. Some Irvin Dextron 2. Dextron 2. When's the last time you guys seen Dextron 2? That right there is likely older than me. Some kind of tarp. Again, big thing. Got a lot of mousage. Maybe even some raccoonage in the back of this. Got a trim piece, spare tire, and that's about it, really. Basically, the most unnerving thing for starting this that I see in the back here, oh, that actually goes, I think, for the trunk. Yeah, I think that's a trunk latch, are these rotor buttons right here. Can't run a vehicle without a rotor button, so we're gonna make a mental note, remember that those are there, but let's see what's inside the cab here. All right, so let's just take a look inside and see what we see. Alright, well, breathing the smell in, it kind of smells like a mixture of mildew and bad carpet, but that's okay. Something for a GM, almost looks like a radio. You know what, I think that is for a radio. I'll swing you guys in. There's an aftermarket radio in here. And then, looks like the ashtray. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Let me bring you guys in. This is kind of what I mean. Aftermarket radio, but it has all the trebles and all that stuff. That's pretty cool. FM, cassette, all that stuff. Wonder if it works. We'll see in a second. Factory clock. I guarantee that thing doesn't work, but I've been wrong before. AC, fan, high and low, defrost. Kind of sticks a little bit. Don't want to force that. High doesn't want to go over. Really old school cool gauges. 16,369 kilometers. I'm betting that's 116,000 or even 216,000. Well, you know what? Based off these pedals, if we go off what Vice Grip Garage says, off the pedals, the seat that I'm in, and this door here where you put your hand, I would say highest 116,000, lowest it could be a 16,000 kilometer car, but I highly doubt it. Got all your knobs. Got all your knobs, wipers. That must be for your liquids. Air. I'm not sure what air is, to tell you the honest truth. That's another air one. Lighter. Look at that. Lighter. No keyage. That's okay. What's inside this? What do we got in here? Seems to be a general theme. We got a lot of rotor buttons running around here. That is a speedometer drive gear. A couple old fuses. It's running the glass fuses. Not sure what that is, tell you the honest truth.
Video? Huh? Yeah. Yeah. You want to be on the video? Yeah. Of course you do.
What do you think? Huh? What do you think, Stink? Huh? Huh? Time to see what's inside the power barn. These ones, they actually open up the hood from underneath the bumper. Old school. The 65 Town and Country, or the 66 Town and Country used to do that too. Alrighty, so let me bring you guys in. There's a couple things I want to show you guys on this. Let's take a quick peek. So this is kind of what we're dealing with. Got a battery box. Quite crisp, but that's okay. The radiator looks to be all there, tell you the honest truth. Doesn't seem to be really any damage in the fins or anything like that. Looks to be actually a 3 or a 4 core, which is pretty nice. Radiator cap looks to be bone dry, so we'll have to make a note of that. Power steering, that kind of stuff. Really shiny paint type deal on it. Looks to be like all the plug wires are there. We'll have to do a quick inspection on them and make sure they're not chewed. That starter cable does not look happy, but might be enough to start her up. So it does have a voltage regulator on it, so the one at the back we didn't have to worry too much about. Check this out. Old school reservoir. It's damaged. It's no good anymore, but it's still there. That's the factory reservoir for what it looks like is the windshield washer squirters. So that would be your windshield washer fluid just hanging out in there. So let's pull this rag off and see just what we're kind of dealing with for a carburetor. It looks to be a 351 or a 352. Got a little tag here. So we thought it was a 352, but if you look right there, it says 351W, so it must be a 351 Windsor. Spark plug gap is there and a whole bunch of stuff. You got your dwell angle. That's going to be useful information for this points distributor for us to go off of. But it's all there. But it's a 351 Windsor inside this vehicle. I'll put up above what rated horsepower and torque is for that year. But let's start diving in a little bit to this carburetor and see just what we got to deal with. If you look, the linkage is actually seized right up on this. Most likely the throttle blades on the inside are what are sticking. So we might remove this plate and see if we can get that to move. But most likely this carburetor needs a complete overhaul at this point, and it's most likely never gonna run right again. But we'll see what we can do, see if we can free this guy up real quick, and then we'll move on from there. We were gonna think that the carburetor was seized, but then I started playing around with it, and I actually think it's the pedal assembly right there at a coupler. Let me bring you guys in. You can kind of see where it's tweaking that. I think the rod itself for the pedal seized. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna pop this guy off with this little wrench here. There we go. It's sticking, but it's not seized, which is good. So, carburetor with a little bit of work, we should get that going. It's still not gonna likely run right because we might have to pull this top bowl off, who knows. But the let's see if it turns over first, and let's see that. I got it all loosened up there. See that nice spring back there? Just gotta put the spring back on her. But we got it all loosened up so we can move on to see if this engine actually turns over. So it's a direct drive fan, so we can kind of cheat on it and put our weight a little bit on it. But as you can see, the engine is moving. Now, it's a good solid connection thud type deal. So either the engine seized, but I really actually think that it's our drive belts that are really stuck to the pulleys. I've seen that happen before too. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna loosen up these pulleys and then we're gonna try it again. So yeah, just give me a second here. Just looking at that, I got the power steering pump all loosened up, but as you can see, the belt should be letting go of that pulley, and it's not. So I'm pretty sure that this is all seized up onto the pulley, so we're just gonna run a little screwdriver all the way through under that and on our water pump, and we'll free up this belt completely. So give me a second here. Here we go. Kind of work that through. Yeah, look at the rust coming out of that. All right, so that's free on the power steering. Now we just gotta free it up on the water pump. Okay, it's free on the water pump. The last one is the bottom crank on that drive belt. All right, so that main belt assembly is all free. I can tighten up my water pump again. We're gonna move over to our alternator bracket now and see if we can get that belt right there loosened up. We got this alternator all freed up enough. Pulling it down, we still have to free this up here, but we got it all freed up enough that we can get this drive belt here all loosened up on it. Really crusty unit, definitely seized right onto this pulley. So same thing, we're gonna kind of get our screwdriver in there and work that little sucker around, see if we can free that up. Our alternator isn't seized, which is awesome. The bearings don't sound happy at all, but we got that going for us. So our alternator isn't seized or anything like that. Our power steering isn't seized. Our water pump isn't seized. But now we kind of can wiggle around the engine. So sadly, the seize is internal on this. It is moving, which is good. We're not starting from absolute zero, but this engine is locked up. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna pull each spark plug, take a peek at what's going on inside the cylinders. It's only seized up a little bit, so we should be able to work that out. But so far, we're dealing with a seized engine. Let's keep working. First things first, we're gonna pull off all 8 spark plug boots. Just kind of see, they're definitely crispy. They're definitely kind of seized on some of these, like right here. Oof. So they're not the happiest wires in the world, but that's okay. So this side all came off. Let's try the other side here. This one's seized up a little bit. Let's see if I can pull him off. Ooh, crispy. Ooh, that spark plug's not happy looking, but that's okay. He might even still run. As long as his electrode inside is okay. That's the main thing. Alrighty, so let's start pulling some spark plugs. Like all old Fords 13/16, socket is the answer for these plugs. We got all the spark plugs out. I'm going to bring you guys in and we'll take a quick peek at what we're dealing with here. So my hand's the front of the engine, bear that in mind. So that should be spark plug number 1. He's the most rusty and crusty out of them all, so I'm betting if there's a problem with any cylinder, it's going to be on him. But as you can see, all the spark plugs, when it last ran, seem to be in decent shape. No real issues that I can see. So what we're going to do, we're going to clean up these spark plugs real quick. My guess is if there's any problem, it's in the valve train. The valve train's likely hanging that up. Likely the exhaust valves that were opened, the moisture came up, got to the exhaust valves and jammed them open. So let me clean up these spark plugs real quick. And we're going to sit these guys off to the side. And we might put a little bit of fluid just in the cylinders, but I don't think it's a cylinder problem on this. We got our spark plugs all cleaned up. See, this is the worst one where the electrode meets up. Let me see if I can focus up on that. You see how it's all kind of pitted compared to a new one? Or you see how it's all pitted compared to this one right here? This is 1 out of the 7. This was also the rustiest one here at the bottom. But we cleaned it up enough that should still conduct electricity perfectly fine. So we got our set of 8. They're all cleaned up. So now what we're going to do is just fog out these cylinders. So now we're just going to do a quick fog with the WD-40. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take all our spark plug wires off our distributor cap, because all of these need to be cleaned up quite a lot. So I'm going to unhook all of these real quick, and then we'll be right back. We've been going through the spark system just a little bit. The distributor cap cleaned up all right, half decent really. Not a lot of super rough, like sugaring almost, but there was an awful lot of oxidization. So we came in here with a blade and a little wire brush there, cleaned that guy right up. So he should be okay. The only thing is the spark plug wires, they're not the hottest. There's a couple ones that are a little cracked and broken, stuff like there. But I ohmed them all out with the multimeter and they all checked out. So they all should work, but they're brittle, they're soft. But for our purposes, they should be okay. And then as for the distributor, the rotor button, as you can see, there's some problems going on with this there. So I checked those spare ones that we have, but there must be for a smaller type distributor. Still a Ford, because the shank still goes on, but they're quite a little bit more stubby. But I came with my old Ford here, and it's still running the point style distributor, so I actually stole its rotor button out of that for right now. 302 or a 351 and a 460 points distributor type rotor is the exact same. So I can use my 461 in this for this time being, but we'll just have to take it out at the end of the day. But I think this spark system should work with the spark plugs that we have. Now we still have to go through our distributor and our coil to make sure those are good, but I think what we should do, because we have to make sure that that distributor linkage is turning, we have to get the engine to turn over first. So let's start working back on the engine. Let me flip you guys around. We're going to pull off these two valve covers here, take a look at the valve tray, and just make sure everything's kind of moving. I think it's hung up on one of the valves. We got a lot of varnish caked on this valve cover. A lot of varnish on the rocker arms. Like a lot of varnish on the rocker arms. I don't think that's going to stop this engine from running, but there might be a valve stuck on that side, but we're going to pull off the other side and check that out too. So what we did is we hammered through all the valves. We had a sticking valve just there at the back and hammered them all through. And then we grabbed a 15/16 ratchet, an extension, and this, and worked it a little bit. Anyway, it broke through, but someone was obviously trying to take this off before, because the 15/16 bolt going that way was super loose. I was undoing it by hand. So once we tightened that up, we managed to turn it over fine. So we're going to do a couple revolutions real quick. We'll watch the distributor, we'll watch the valves, make sure everything's turning the way it should, and then we'll keep on moving on from there. We got it to turn over completely, again, but we ended up having problems with this intake valve at the very back. He was sticking some good. So, bunch of whacks with the hammer as we turned it, and we got it to go. So, now we can do a full rotation. I double checked the entire sequence. I also unhooked the belts just to make my life a lot easier turning this thing. But all the valves are moving, the distributor's moving, even the points. The points are moving the way that they should. So we're just going to take a little bit of sandpaper and sandpaper down these points, and we might spray a little bit of WD in there to kind of purge out some water if there is any water in there. And then we're going to check out our coil and see if our coil's doing anything. This is so rotted off, or this is so rusted up, we can't even put our rotor button on top of this, so I gotta clean that up with the wire brush, just where our rotor goes. I'll be back when it's clean. I have the rotor button on there. I had to clean up the shank a whole bunch. Let's put our ratchet back on here. I'm gonna show you guys. It will make one full rotation, and now it doesn't fight me as much as it did. Nothing seized up. All of our rockers are moving and all that. Watch the rotor on the distributor and you'll see exactly what I mean. There we go. There's 360 degrees of rotation right there. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna plop my battery in here, and we're gonna see what kind of systems we have going on. Figure I'll bring you guys in, take a look at how crusty these valves are, these rockers and stuff like that. Like, look at all that sludge right there. It's gross, really gross. Lots of crap in there. Ideally you clean this all up, but from a locked engine, locked carb, locked distributor, all that stuff, locked belts, we want to see if this even runs. So let's plug a battery in. So kind of like Vice Grip Garage there, I'm gonna put a battery into this guy. That tray is not very alive, that's for sure. And we're just gonna put our positive and our negative on, and we're gonna see what exactly happens. So let's try that. See if there's any smells. Anything at all. Don't smell anything. Let's go inside the cab and fiddle around. So I was just doing a couple fiddle-ins in here, trying to find rotor button, that kind of stuff. I moved these mats. We got cage. Oops. Oh, let's hop in this cab here. And let's just see if this key does anything. Power's on, that kind of stuff. Look at that. We got oil light, we got gen lights. What else we got in here? Whew. No way. We got radio. There you go. Okay. We got defrost, we got fanage. Yes, sir. Do we have hornage? Wiperage. We got wiperage. I don't want to scratch them all up. I don't know what these do. Oh. Got a mouse house in there. That's for damn sure. What's that one do? Oh, I can hear that vent open. So, mouse house there, but those open vents. So, let's just see if it cranks. Yeah, well, it moves. I also just pulled the lights there. 1 out of 4 ain't bad. This guy was just on. You might have seen it. But hey, we got light. Oh, that's technically on. None of those are on. See if we got signals or anything like that. Got signalis. Look at that. We even got tail lips on both sides. Got signalis on that side. We got signalis on that side. So, couple lights aren't bad. Signals are all good. That's pretty neat. So, what we have to check now, see, we got power going to our coil. Okay, so we got 12 volt there. We got 12 volt going out. Got 12 volt to our distributor. And our points are working. So, our complete electrical system is working. Next thing that we're gonna do, really, in all actuality, we should be able to put our spark plugs back on, our wires back on, and then we're just gonna pour a little bit of gas down our venturis here, or down our vent tubes, and then we'll see if it just runs off the vents. So there we go. We got it all set up there. Distributors in. Some of these spark plug wires aren't the hottest, but they should do the gig just for what we need. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to unhook this fuel line for right now, just so it doesn't suck up anything, and we're just going to put some fuel down the vents and see if it fires up. Alrighty, I just remembered, had some Dextron 2 in here. Going to mix a little bit of that into a pop bottle with some gasoline. Going to help lubricate up those cylinders nice and easy. I got a pop bottle with the best of Dextron 2 and some fuel mixed all together. We rug it up with a little fuel hole at the bottom so it has a nice little spray to it. and we have the fuel pump disconnected on the carburetor and the fuel pump disconnected itself from the line, so hopefully it doesn't suck up anything. But the goal is we're going to fill up all of our vents and then a little bit splash down it, and we're going to turn the key and see what happens. Try a little bit again. Okay, so we don't got anything going to that. No, we don't have spark right now, that's the problem. Two things. One, our accelerator pump works. I was managing to squirt it as we went. Second thing, we don't have any spark. So it's going to likely be our coil. That's our main culprit here. So I'm just going to diagnose a couple things. We checked the main power system. It worked out fine, but we never checked our secondary wind-ins. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to check our secondary, but we might just have a bum coil. Got some stuff rigged up here. We got Sparky, I believe this is number 8. And we just kind of have him off to the side, plugged in, plugged off the distributor cap, and he's actually laying right on top of the negative terminal on our battery. And what I have is, because sometimes you have a car that when you put it in run, the run position on your key, it has power to the coil, but it might have an electrical fault, and when you run it on start, it doesn't power the coil and it will never run. But what we got going on right now is I have battery power going straight to my coil, and then the battery power goes straight to the coil, so that's going to bypass any issue that we have going on. So if I take my jumper lead here that I got, that's just my other power here, we're going to jump this lead here and watch that bottom spark plug. Watch that bottom spark plug right there. You should see a jump, a gap, or a spark. Nothing. No spark, no nothing. So after some diagnoses, the old coil is really brittle, stuff like that. I'm not getting a lot off this middle post here for my secondary wind-in, so I'm thinking it's really, really weak, or it's not set up right. Either way, I don't think she's going to do our job that we needed to do. So we're going to replace this coil. All right, so it's handy having other Fords around. So I stole the coil and get out of my truck, same as the rotor. So we're running F-150 rotor and, F-150 coil. Well, we got that all wired in, so it should be all set up square now. So what we're going to do, again, I'm going to hook up my jumper, make sure key's on, and we're going to try her again right here. All right, test number 2. Here we go. Alright, so it's not our coil either, because we just tried our F-150 coil on that. So we're going to check the points again. Maybe I overchecked them, but maybe, just maybe, they're not making the contact we should. Alright, so I readjusted the points to 17, and you can kind of see as I turn them. There's my main gap, it opens up, and we close back off, so that's working just as it should. It's back at 17. Ford's normally 18, but the valve covers on this said 17. So we got that all set up. Again, we're running my truck coil on that, so I'm just going to put this back on and we're going to try her out again. Nothing yet. Let's try that again. No, you're still not getting any spark. All right, so we put a new capacitor in it. And here we go. So we put a new condenser. We got a new rotor. Let's try that.
It's definitely
got a nice sound to it there.
It's just open manifolds.
It's just full on power.
I didn't want to shut off that time.
No, it's getting better. So the idle circuit's not happening. Until it runs out of fuel.
That's a good start.
Roughly, very roughly, but it does run. Alright, so we got the fuel tank running straight to our fuel pump, and then from our pump straight into our carburetor. So we should have to start it again, and then we might be able to let it run for a couple seconds anyway, a little bit longer than we were. And it should squirt oil all over the place. It's gonna make a huge mess, but it's gonna be awesome. Sort of. We run it a little bit more, but it's starting to make a mess.
Yeah. It just needs the valve covers back on, is that it?
Yeah, and then oil and water and stuff. Well, there we go. Well, there you go, guys. After sitting for 29 years, never starting, we went from a seized engine, seized pulleys, seized carburetor, bad coil, bad condenser inside the distributor, really bad wires. We redid a whole bunch of stuff on this, but now it's a runner. Let me know if you want to know more on this Galaxy, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. All right, see ya.